Proceeds to sick bay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species.
Please demonstrate how this is accomplished.
So, what's next?
I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast, brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Missiles. They'll kill you. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, a writer and a fan of the Paranoia role-playing game.
Hi, I'm Mars Reed Lobato, and I'm a fan of the culture novels of Ian M. Banks, a socialist hippie utopia dictated by sentient computers which have the biggest guns, and also the best spaceship names. For an example of a few, we have So Much for Subtlety, Flexible Demeanor, Just Read the Instructions, and, of course, I Still Love You.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think that could be one of those great... Okay, which of those ships do you think you are? I think I'm a Read the Instructions.
I would definitely be on Just Read the Instructions, or wait a second, what does this button do?
Oh, no. Yeah, if I had to pick mine, it would probably be, oh dear, that something's fallen off again.
I think mine would probably, either that or mine would be, I'm not even supposed to be here today.
The classic. So yes, but we're not here to talk about the culture. No, we're here to talk about the popular culture. Star Trek, yes. And we will be discussing 3 episodes from 3 different Star Trek shows and rank them on our big list of best to worst. And this week, we're having a look at times that AI in Star Trek went a bit weird, had a bit of an emotional time, or just went a bit awry in general. And before we do that, Miles, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
It has not been a singular thing I have been enjoying, but a few weeks ago, at the grand old age of 98, film director, producer Roger Corman passed away. Now, Roger Corman is very famously known for a lot of films, more bad than good. He was notorious for being able to shoot films on the quick and, more importantly, on the cheap, and helping launch the careers of Jack Nicholson, Ron Howard as a director, Jonathan Demme, and Martin Scorsese, that favorite director of MCU fanboys everywhere. Of course. And so, in honor of his death, I've been watching his films here and there. Thankfully, they're usually for free on a free streaming service with ads. I've been enjoying rewatching his Edgar Allan Poe films, which more often than not star Vincent Price in full ham mode. Also, A Bucket of Blood, which is a black comedy about a aspiring artist who accidentally kills people and encases them in clay, and these statues get seen as genius by the pretentious, douchey hipster beatniks that frequent the coffee bar he works at. And the original film, Little Shop of Horrors, not the musical, the film which inspired the musical.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I've seen any of Corman's work. What would you recommend to a first-timer?
I would honestly recommend any of his Poe films. So, like The Fall of the House of Usher, The Mask of the Red Death, The Pit and the Pendulum. I would say, for a director who's very much known for cranking out cheap B-movies, these always look fantastically lush, Technicolor, brilliant sets. Like I said, you're going to have Vincent Price in full-on ham. Like, Vincent Price always knows the assignment. And while they may not have the best fealty to the plots of the stories or poems that they're adapting, you're generally going to have a good time in that kind of 1960s post-Hammer horror movie way.
Okay, cool.
And what about you, Charlie?
Well, I have a number of things, but the main one that I feel has to be my pick of the last bit of time is Cabin Con. It's a mini kind of convention, a gathering of friends up in Tutbury near Derby, and it's a tiny place known mainly for a castle, Tutbury Castle, which Mary Queen of Scots once thought stank of shit,
Wonderful.
and
Charlie,
peacocks. Yeah.
quick question.
Hmm.
Considering that we have a vastly colonial audience, how many miles is Tutbury from London?
Many,
Many.
many. Yeah,
More
yeah,
than 20?
definitely. Yeah, you have to go up. Like you don't not far enough to hit the wall. So we didn't have to deal with any wildlings, but you know, it's further up than it is down.
Fair enough. I need to tell a quick anecdote now. I had a regular when I worked as a barista, and his name was Gary. And Gary, this is the politest way I can say it, was a fucking idiot. And he didn't know he was a fucking idiot. And he once asked me if Manchester was 25 miles from London. And all I could say to him was, no, Gary, 25 miles from London is more London.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're working on the American scale, but, you know, there is distance. We do have to travel a ways to get to places in ye merry old England, despite the wildlings and the wargs.
Yes. So yeah, it's not quite Manchester distance. It's 135 miles from London. So yeah, and it's the kind of place that's so small it has to share its train station. So yeah,
Bloody hell.
it's
That is
great.
small.
It's yeah. I didn't see any of the many peacocks this year, but I did certainly hear them, as they are loud bastards who I think at one point I compared to a detuned seagull. So yeah, but I was there with friends and with my partner mostly to play board games and had a lovely time. We played a game called Apiary about space bees.
Did they get in your
Mine were
eyes?
no, luckily no. These were big, giant space bees building spaceships, and yeah, we played Marvel United. We did a game called Border Riding, where you draw a map and keep redrawing it every few years, adjusting the borders of a town and the prominent features of it.
Was Marvel United a game which is basically Sabutio, but with Marvel characters?
I mean, it should be.
Shit, no,
That'd be
shame.
fun.
That'd be great.
No, we were fighting against. Oh God, who was it? We were looking to fight against some of the weirder ex-villains that we'd not fought against yet. So it's a cooperative game with these little chibi-looking figures, and they are adorable looking. We beat up Sebastian Shaw,
As you should.
and yeah, God, I forget who else. It's terrible. It was a bit of a whirlwind.
Did you fight Whirlwind?
No, I don't have Whirlwind yet, but one day. But yeah, it was a nice time, mostly for seeing the folks there. I think there were 27 of us in total throughout the whole week. So yeah,
That honestly sounds lovely.
yes, it was a very nice time. And yeah, now I'm back. But that's right, because I get to do this.
Yay!
Yay! Yeah, speaking of which, we've got some Star Trek to talk about. So, let's start from the earliest of these, which is Star Trek Voyager. This one is from season 2, episode 17, titled Dreadnought. It aired on the 12th of February 1996, written by Gary Holland from a script by Lisa Klink. And it was directed by LeVar Burton. Yes, Geordie LaForge. I think this is our first LeVar Burton. It is not our first as far as the UK and US #1 hits. Apparently, it was just this all throughout season 2 of Voyager. The UK with Babylon Zoo's Spaceman, and the US with Mariah Carey and Boys to Men's One Sweet Day. Did you bother
Did we
listening to these again?
No, because I'm like, I listened to these last episode.
And I'm sure they've been on this before as well.
I'm gonna say it for the 4th time, 2nd time in a row. Babylon Zoo, the best Babylon 5 tribute band. Boom, did it.
Boom. Yeah, got 'em.
Fresh jokes every episode.
Yeah. So, Miles, we'd best get looking at what the episode is like, and it's your time to recap it. So, let's set a missile for your house, and if you don't finish it within 5 minutes, the missile will, I guess, probably explode. It'll do something bad. I don't know what's inside missiles.
Please, not in this economy.
Well, best get cracking on with that recap and launch.
The Doctor and Kez are helping a pregnant crew member name her baby. But that's not important right now. It'll never be important for the rest of this episode. The Voyager has come across wreckage from an unmanned probe. B'Elanna recognizes the handiwork. Back when she and Chakotay were members of the Marquis, they were able to capture a Cardassian missile ship, which they nicknamed Dreadnought, which contained enough antimatter destructive power to destroy a small moon. B'Elanna had been able to get on board and reprogram Dreadnought, even reprogramming the computer to sound like her, and they sent it out to destroy a Cardassian fuel depot. It disappeared in the Badlands, and they assumed it was destroyed, but actually it must have been picked up by the caretaker, and it's now just doing its thing in the Delta Quadrant. Whoops! B'Elanna and Tom work on trying to detect the Dreadnought. B'Elanna confesses to Tom that, in fact, she actually sent the Dreadnought off without Chakotay's permission, and he was covering for her. There's some stuff about a subplot with Tom maybe turning traitor, but that's not important right now. They detect the Dreadnought, and it's heading for a Class M planet, Rakosha 5, with inhabited life, and it's locked on target. There's a Marquis traitor working for the Kazon, and who tells them that the Dreadnought has more destructive power than the Kazon themselves, but that's not important right now. Janeway tells the people on the planet about the Dreadnought, but the First Minister is suspicious. Turns out the Kazon have been stirring shit about Voyager, and the people on the planet don't trust them. Torres beams aboard the Dreadnought and tries to start work on deactivating it. It's not working. The Dreadnought's AI is operating on false parameters, and its safety protocols, installed by Torres herself, are able to outsmart her. But she's able to fix the navigation problem, convincing it that it's in the Delta Quadrant and not heading for Cardassian fuel depot. And the Dreadnought shuts down. The Voyager crew goes, hey, we can strip this thing for spare parts for years, but oh no! It's the Dreadnought switches back on, and it's heading now to Rakosha 5 at top warp drive. It's going to impact in 50 hours. Janeway attacks the Dreadnought, hoping that Voyager, which was not put out when the Dreadnought was activated, should be able to get the other hand. But nope, it's starting to adapt to Voyager's specifications. The Dreadnought, once more in Torres' voice, tells Voyager to stand down, and it will destroy Voyager if it tries to impede its mission, believing that Torres is being coerced by the Cardassians to deactivate the Dreadnought. It doesn't believe it's in the Delta Quadrant, and it's still actually in the Alpha Quadrant. Torres thinks that she has one way of outsmarting the Dreadnought. Attack it with Voyager. Disable it with a concentrated tachyon beam. They get through, but the Dreadnought is able to retaliate with a plasma burst, causing severe damage to Voyager, and it continues on its way while Voyager has to pull back. The First Minister of Rakosha scrambles its fleet to try and stop the missile, despite Janeway's warnings, but they've been a peaceful planet. They don't have weapons as powerful as the Federation. Torres manages to get back on the Dreadnought, but now the Dreadnought is blocking the transporter pattern. So when she goes on, she can't get back out. Torres is actually racked with guilt over what she saw seeing as her past mistakes. she attempts to physically dismantle the systems, but she is met with ever-increasing electric shocks. The Dreadnought still believes Torres is being coerced by the Cardassians, and just as Torres makes progress, the Recosian fleet has arrived and prepares to attack. Janeway asks the fleet to pull back, but the Recosians keep on fighting. Torres refuses to beam back, using the Recosian attack as a diversion to try and dismantle the Dreadnought's computer systems. But now she is fully locked out of the computer, and life support is being turned off. The Recosians are being decimated in Voyager attacks, giving the Recosians time to retreat. In desperation, Torres tries to initiate the Dreadnought's self-destruct function and destroy herself along with the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought doesn't understand this. Torres would never die to protect the Cardassians, and Torres asks the Dreadnought to assume that they're in the Delta Quadrant and they're actually going to kill a lot of innocent people. Turns out that the Cardassians had a backup in the Dreadnought the whole time, and the original Cardassian voice starts speaking. And now the Dreadnought believes that Balan has betrayed the Marquis, is preparing for its final attack with no time.
Oh no! Oh dear! 5 minutes have elapsed. Good luck with the missile that's headed to your location. Hopefully I set it right.
Hopefully.
I'm not hearing any explosions.
No, it is usually meant to be an earth-shattering kaboom. Must be made in England.
Yep. Oh well. Right, well, carry on.
Janeway has come across the most desperate plan of all. She is going to ram the Dreadnought with the Voyager, and even though it'll destroy the Voyager, it'll be worth it to protect a few million people they've never met before. Torres tries to access the Cardassian backup file with the oxygen running out, even as the Dreadnought itself is telling B'Elanna to leave. Janeway and Tuvok stay behind, setting a 20-minute self-destruct sequence. Torres causes a dichotomy in the Dreadnought's programming, as both the Cardassian and Torres programming start to try and countermand and outthink each other. And using this, Torres is finally able to break through to the warp core, and is able to destroy the Dreadnought with a warp core breach. Janeway has to try and disconnect the Voyager self-destruct mechanism, but she realizes, oh no, I have to go back for Jonesy because I left the... Oh wait, sorry, no, that's from the film Alien. And unlike in the film Alien, Janeway is able to deactivate the Voyager self-destruct mechanism with 1 minute to go. This feels very risky, I gotta say. And the planet is saved. The Dreadnought is destroyed. Torres is a little toasty, but she'll live. Go team.
Yeah. That's 1 minute and 29 seconds over. Yeah. Yeah, it was fun watching the Doctor get all snippy and fussy about name choices with the intro to this. Even though, as you say, it didn't really come back here at all. Just part of a slow burn of a B plot.
I did like when he comes up at the very end and Janeway has to sheepishly admit that she forgot to tell him that she was blowing the ship up, and he's just like, I'll try not to take that personally.
Yeah, it's from what we've seen so far of early Voyager, there are a lot of moments where they do seem to have forgotten him. Of like, oh yeah, we forgot to shut him off. Oh no, like, oh yeah, he's just, I don't know, treating him still like a bit of furniture. Yes, when he was starting to get into the meanings of things, of names, and going, no, here's a flaw. This person, that's kind of like Vulcan Hitler, or, Cameron. That means he who puts dick in pig. Any of these kind of things. It's like, we wouldn't want that.
Or Rishi, which means he who asks homeless guy what he's doing this weekend.
Oh, dear. Yeah, I forgot, because I knew Naomi Wildman was a thing. I forgot that this was a whole story arc that played out kind of through the pregnancy and childhood of her. But yes, also, it felt kind of like Kes got stuff to do. Like, got character. Just in that brief scene.
For a brief
second.
second.
God, she's having fun. Oh, oh, she's not just being meekly near either Tom Paris or Neelix.
Neelix.
You know?
Do you know what did kind of actually surprise me?
Hmm.
For a show which seems to hit its reset button with alarming regularity, there's quite a lot of like small subplots going on in this episode. Like you've
Yeah.
got the whole, like I think this is a continuation of Tom having his gambling rings. I think we've done the episode before this
Hmm.
and the episode after, and I think this is all part of, from what I remember, a storyline where Tom tries to be a double agent to uncover the Kazon actual traitor on Voyager, who we see for 1 minute, for like one
Yeah.
scene, to tell the Kazon, hey, there's this Dreadnought thing. It's really powerful. Are you going to do anything? No.
Yeah, he was in Threshold as well. Just briefly. I can't remember whether we bothered actually mentioning that. But yeah, going, oh my god, there's this drive. You guys might be interested to this. Has Seska said anything about me? That kind of thing. As yeah, he does seem to be very much about her. Yeah. But this felt almost, I don't know, when I saw that, I was thinking, oh, is it going to look for a Cardassian? And there is one in this quadrant.
Oh,
And yeah, that'd be fun. It's like,
that's an interesting twist.
we don't know why it's active and going to a place. And
I did like Janeway's talking to the first minister of the planet, and I like the fact that the Kazon have basically been spreading rumors about Voyager
see,
across
before
the
they
area.
said that, I was like, yeah, I bet people are talking. So no, this is early season. Like she's not done enough war crimes here for it to spread yet. But yeah, it's interesting seeing the Kazon spreading that kind of bullshit. It makes them slightly different to just, some kind of Klingon type enemies where
Like,
they're just gonna talk shit.
like I wish there was more kind of world building like this with the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah.
Which I think even dating back to our first episode, where I feel like the Delta Quadrant is a huge wasted opportunity to do something different. But then we just kind of go back to this. Yeah, it's just planets with it's the same old Star Trek shit we get every week.
Yeah. Some humans with some bumpy bits.
Bumpy hit bits.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah, here, like, I don't know, the guys with the somewhere between artichoke and mollusk head kind of thing. Like them starting off kind of going, oh no, we've got our people, we'll sort it out, and then I kind of, oh, things are looking a bit fucked for them. And shocked that Janeway would actually, do a Starfleet and go, well, fine, we'll own this. Like this war crime machine that B'Elanna reprogrammed to go and massacre a world. Yeah, we should probably own that and get it destroyed. Which again, like, that felt like she was doing a bit of a war crime when she did that.
I mean, it's the Marquis. The whole kind of war crime is, you're skirting that. One person's war crime is another person's resistance action.
Yeah, I guess that thing of these are freedom fighters, but it sometimes depends on the actions can get a little genocide.
Yeah, it depends on who's like on who's reporting and whose side we're on.
Yeah, I know when I first watched some Voyager back in the day, I was never really like I had no time for B'Elanna. It felt like, oh yeah, you've got a bit of engineering, you've got a bit of Klingon this. We've seen these before. But yeah, this was fun as a highlight of what her past what she did, and having to contend with a machine that is kind of her past self as well.
Like, yeah, I really enjoyed. I like that brief moment with her and Harry where she calls him Starfleet. It kind of feels like they met way back in Caretaker, and it just feels like, do we ever interact again? Not really. Like Harry just becomes, oh look, that's Tom's mate.
Yeah,
that's my future husband's best mate who I have to deal with. He's the Roberto to Smash's Cannonball.
Yeah, God, that's a terrible comparison. Like, yeah, I feel Harry Kim wishes he could be Roberto,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But... Oh, so did you find that the Dreadnought missile itself seemed to run on crystal maze logic, in which you have two rooms and you've got to fix the puzzle in the first room before you can get into the second room and do the actual puzzle, which gets you the crystal. And if you don't do it in time, you get locked in or blown up.
So, yeah, although I think I know the answer to this. Cardassians, just big old assholes.
Yeah.
They're fine with making it as inconvenient for their people as long as it makes it inconvenient for anyone else also dealing with it. So yeah, it was fun seeing B'Elanna being both her and, or at least Roxanne Dawson being both her and the computer. Who,
Yeah.
at times it's like, oh, this is a weirdly polite computer, which made its constant kind of rebutting of anything of but you're probably taken over by Cardassians, you're probably being coerced, and we both know that the real B'Elanna wouldn't want to be coerced by Cardassians, so I'm gonna have to keep doing this. So
Have you ever seen the John Carpenter film Dark Star?
I don't think I have.
It's John Carpenter's first film. It's a student film I think he did at UCLA, which he then added scenes to make it feature length. It's about a spaceship which goes around blowing up unstable planets, and for some reason the bombs are sentient. And one of the bombs develops a fault and they can't launch it. So in order to get the bomb not to explode, they have to teach the bomb existentialist philosophy in order to convince it that it's alive and so not to explode. So you have scenes of these astronauts trying to teach this bomb ever more increasing levels of philosophical thought to the point where it's all going to go horribly wrong. I always love the idea of sentient weapons.
Yes, I was recently reading a Judge Dredd strip about a lawmaster that became self-aware and went rogue and was punishing everyone for what it felt were transgressions of the law, including judges trying to take it down, who obviously were destroying judge property by shooting at it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's LCD, the little girl robot who is also a bomb, who's designed to be imperiled and get close enough to Wolverine and then explode.
Have you got to Rogue Trooper yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Rogue Trooper is imminent, I think.
In your 2000 AD reread or read?
Yes. I'm in about April 1981.
Because Rogue Trooper, I think, is the core kind of title for when it comes to intelligent weaponry and military hardware in a sci-fi setting.
Nice. Yeah.
We've had a run of really good Voyager episodes on this show.
Yeah, and not even late ones. Like, these are still fairly early in its run.
Yeah.
Because, just seeing on our list, because we do have a big old list here, last episode, we placed our highest rated Voyager at spot number 16. Now, the list itself currently stands at 108 entries. At that sounded awkward. At the number one spot is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Then at 50 down on here we have Genesis from The Next Generation with the Barclay Spider and Worf definitely killing a guy. Down in 100 we have our second worst Voyager episode with The Caretaker. And finally, down at the bottom at number 108, we still have Strange New Worlds' Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach with the child-killing machine. So, yeah, I guess we've got to figure out where we're putting this on the big old list.
Okay. Ooh.
Because yeah, there's definitely better Voyager wise, but it was solid. You know, it was a
Yeah.
nice solid one there.
Like, oh man, like this wasn't.
Like, is this? Hang on. Okay, the important question: is this threshold good? The threshold currently at spot 35, about a
Oh,
third of the way down our list.
I think in its own. I think it's better than Threshold.
Oh
Oh,
wow!
okay.
I was gonna say I think Threshold's a lot more of an episode.
Like, okay, I don't know. Threshold is a lot more. It's just a lot more fun in its utter
Hmm.
stupidity, whereas this is like a solid action episode.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big action movie, but you have the big action movie set piece, which is, oh, B'Elanna has to outwit a sentient bomb, which is programmed with her own personality, sort of, in 50 hours, or else an innocent planet's gonna get destroyed. And it does maintain the tension and the urgency,
Yeah,
which
even with going
sometimes,
back and forth set wise and all
yeah,
that, it's like, oh, that could have diffused it a little.
because even with Star Trek in its prime,
Mm.
of like the late TNGs, the early like DS9. Sometimes when they have like the much more action episodes, it does kind of sometimes fumble or it feels very rushed. And here I think it kept a good pace and thus a good tension. I get the feeling you disagree or
No,
um
it's good. I don't know, like somewhere between the. I feel with Threshold, you've got the kind of here's a science problem we're trying to work together and science out of, and then body horror, and
mm,
then that ending.
that's
Again, I think I'm going slightly more on quantity than quality.
that's fair. Threshold does have more scenes where a character pulls out their own tongue and starts laughing.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? That's fair. I will. Threshold's better.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Right. Yeah. I guess.
I love how we both have very different criteria. Whereas, like, oh, I like a good rollicking space action adventure, and you're like, he pulled out his tongue.
He did. It was great.
You're just kind of sitting there like a British Beavis and Butthead going, ugh, ugh. Hey, Beavis, he pulled out his tongue. It's gross, gross.
Oh, just the noises that Tom Paris made while he was changing. Yeah. He did
Look,
some
come on,
good, like I'm
look,
evolving outside of compatibility with reality.
look. We're
Kind of.
both largest gentlemen. We have both made those same noises when trying to zip up a pair of trousers, which is slightly too tight.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The good trousers. Terrible.
All right, so okay, so where is Threshold? Where is Threshold?
It
There is
is. Oh
Threshold.
yeah, it's 34. 35 is two Vix directly
Oh,
under it.
oh God. Oh man, we have a double dosing of body horror right there.
One day we'll find something that is worse than Threshold, better than two Vix, and it will
but
split those two up. But for now, that's a power block.
all right, okay, let's see.
God, and both from season 2 as well.
Man,
What a
was
season!
wow is and Death Wish is also in the second season of Voyager.
And Meld. Have we found
Man,
the best season of Voyager?
okay, and we're only what 46 episodes in. Okay, I think we're good. We can wrap this up now.
Oh dear. Okay, so I guess yeah, the quick is this better than Tuvix? Is this better than Meld? Given Meld is also, it's in 37. So this is creating quite a ground of season 2.
A power couple of
Hmm.
episodes. Oh,
See again, like I don't know, it's that Torres versus evil computer Torres or Tuvok versus Brad Dourif.
ooh, that's
Hmm.
I don't know, Balana does get pretty damp in the last scene when oxygen is just even quickly running out, and it is not doing the Klingon makeup any favors.
No, my word, the eyebrows, like they were sweating something fierce there. It was very odd. Like her eyebrows looked different to the rest of her. Like they'd been stuck on and were leaking. It was very weird.
Okay, I am looking at. Ooh, man, it's All right, I am looking at number 41,
Mm-hmm.
which is North Star, which is Enterprise, and which is Enterprise going to a Wild West planet and finding bigotry.
Oh shit, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. I think. I don't know. This might be a little better than that, just because it manages to keep the tension nicely. Like I like North Star. It does sometimes flail at things to do for all three of the core cast. Yeah.
All right, and above North Star, we have Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad, which is the time loop episode of Discovery.
Yes. I don't
Ah,
know. I feel pretty positive about that spot between Magic and North Star. I don't know.
all right.
Are you cool with that?
I am like the time loop episode of Discovery is really good and has one of my favorite moments in Discovery,
Mm.
which is whilst Michael Burnham telling Stamets like the secret to make the next iteration of Burnham know she's in a time loop, which is she's never fallen in love, and Stamets just replying, "That's so sad."
Mm.
Like it's Discovery, just as we'll see in the next episode, in the next episode we watch, Discovery has like these moments where I go, "This is a great show," and I feel like this episode has a lot of them. Especially watching Jason Isaacs just get killed again and again and again by Dwight Schrute.
Yes, as someone who thinks he is so much in control and more knowledgeable than anyone else, seeing Jason Isaacs slightly out of control there, and the chaos that ensues from all that, and it's a show that I don't know, like there's a lot of good to it, despite a lot of the painful earnestness,
Mm.
and sometimes it can do both of those things quite well.
All right, so
So
this is
that's
our new 41.
yeah. So, our second episode for the night is fast forwarding all the way to the 23rd of December 2021 with Star Trek Discovery, Season 4, Episode 6, titled Stormy Weather. It was written by Anne Covell Saunders and Brandon Schultz and directed by our second TNG alum of the evening, one Jonathan Frakes. I admit, when I saw the episode name and his name pop up as the director in the credits, I was like, oh, of course. The UK number one hit for this was Ed Sheeran and Elton John with Merry Christmas, which is not good. I watched the music video, and Elton John at times looks like he's been poorly reanimated.
Did you watch the live action? Was there a live action one, or was
Yeah.
okay? Because I saw the animated lyric video, which has the
Oh, wow.
same art style as the cover art, and my god, it is every joke about poorly animated adult cartoons is right down that cover art. You could do an adult animated cartoon about Ed Sheeran and Elton John, and they would just have that dead-eyed stare.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, Elton John's wearing sunglasses for the music video, so for all I know, there are just dead eyes back there. Yeah,
I
and then the
I just take I admit I take umbrage at any song which goes, yeah, we've had a bad year, but let's just stop being angry. We have money.
Yeah. I mean, the video had very much had that vibe of, hey, look, here's a reference for Snowman. You remember that? Here's a reference to that Christmas E17 video. You remember that? And yeah, it did feel a bit like it was kind of wallowing. Yeah, and the US's number one was Adele with Easy on Me, which felt closer to, this is 2021. We've got a depressed Christmas. Let's feel a bit rough.
Hmm.
Let's, you know.
Do you think in an alternate universe, the title for this episode may have been Stormy Weather?
Oh dear. What, that oldie in the Star Trek time. Yeah.
Classical music.
Exactly. That never gets old. Right. But yes, what hopefully won't get old is my recap.
Okay. All right, Charlie, you have 5 minutes to explore of an empty void where there is no light, no stars, and no hope of escape. Then, after your trip to Whitehawk, you can spend 5 minutes talking about the episode of Discovery.
Wow.
Go.
So, previously, there's a thing called the DMA. Can't remember what it stands for, but it's some kind of space environmental catastrophe. It's wrecking things like Book's homeworld that his family were on. Oh no! Also, the Discovery's computer has emotions now and is calling itself Zora. So, Michael shows off a weird alien holographic Christmas tree to Book. It's a tree of memories and of family, and Booker is a bit occupied. He wants to go outside of Federation space to find more leads on the DMA, while Michael wants to analyze a subspace tear that it left behind in order to get clues while it's fresh. She's the captain, so she gets to do this. So, now the ship is going to have a bit of a bumpy ride. Saru brings up, oh, it's all right. Voyager and the Enterprise both survived similar occurrences going into rifts. Despite that, is a little uncertain about Zora, and frankly, she understands that concern. She's newly self-aware, after all, and still dealing with a lot. Also dealing with a lot is Gray, who gets left behind in a bar as he's not really part of the crew, and everyone's running around all excited about going out on a mission, including Adira. So, everyone ready? Time to go through the rift, and it's nothing. It's just nothing's all shaky or and there is literal nothing outside. There's no sound, no stars. They put on the sensors, nothing. They look out the window, nothing. They send a little drone out to have a scan of it, and it about 6,000 meters out, it disintegrates. Reese sends out a flare, and it's still dark out there. And then the flare disintegrates, and worse, it does so nearer than the dot did. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer. It's going to hit the ship at some point. Book goes down to help Stamets, who's trying out niceness for once. Well done, Stamets. Gray offers some help to Zora, who turns it down. She is freaky out a bit about the whole nothing and has started hyperfixating on every little thing inside the ship. Gray offers a game of some kind of trill chess to help calm her down. After all, he wants to feel useful. And from that angle, Zora decides, yeah, okay, I'll join in. The bridge, on the other hand, is all in a panic. Michael suggests reversing out the way they came, but they can't see it, so they don't want to back out a bit wrong and disintegrate. Book goes into the spore chamber to try piloting it. Again, with Stamets for once letting someone else do some of the work around there, and he'll monitor it from outside. It goes wrong. Book gets shocked. The mycelial network, it's not looking so good, so they're not going to be able to jump out of here. Book starts hallucinating his dad, who's a real jerk, telling him off about how he should be hunting the DMA's creator, not, doing a science. So it's time for him to go to sick bay. Book is a bit freaked out, and the hallucination is apparently from a combination of his weird abilities that are innate to him and the mycelial network. Stamets, having no real sense of letting an injured person recover, is in sickbay with a PowerPoint presentation about why the network's not working, and hopefully he can scan Book's brain to look for information to help. Zora and Gray play their board game a bit and compare their chosen names. Zora's feeling a little less overwhelmed and senses there's something on the wing. Is it a demon? No, it's a hull breach. Fortunately, an ensign does get sucked out into space before Zora can block it off. Zora feels a bit of guilt for that, and Gray helps her chill and realizes this wasn't the thing on the hull. He explains his findings to Michael and that helping Zora focus has created a better awareness. Maybe they can use this to find a way out. And Zora, she's afraid she can't do that, Dave. Book is still hallucinating his dickhead of a dad, who keeps going on a bit. And up on the bridge, there are a lot of theories suggested by the bridge crew. They're getting lines! Hooray! Unfortunately, they're not great plans. Saru's doubtful any of them will work, but he still tries to give them a pep talk. Over in the ready room, Zora's still freaked out, and Michael helps talk her down by talking about her past and feelings and the need to move forward with stuff. After having a freak out. Oh no! We're gonna crash into the nothing.
All right, you ready to crash into the nothing?
Oh, always.
All right, stopwatch going now.
So, in sickbay, Book's hallucinations are calming down a bit, and they've realised the DMA left some particles from beyond the galactic barrier. Ooh. Adira finds the particles and resonates it with the sensor in a kind of echolocation to send a ping out and find any traces. And they do. There's an exit. Hooray! It's also a bit too far for the shields to last. The ship's going to start disintegrating. That's not great. Everyone gets put in a pattern buffer. Yes, even the cat, Grudge. Book tells his hallucination father that he hopes he's a spirit, not a hallucination. Because that means his dead family, who aren't arseholes, do still exist in some form somewhere. Michael stays behind as long as she can, getting all toasty in a spacesuit. There's a bit of a montage of an empty Discovery that's all sparking and disintegrating and all that. Zora says she can feel parts of her dying and offers to sing to Michael and sings Stormy Weather. Michael passes out and we fade to black. And then she's back. She's in sickbay with Culber, Book, Saru, and yes, Zora. Disco's in dire need of repairs. It's going to need to, patch itself up. And then they need to start figuring out how to find people that originate from outside the known galaxy. It ends with Michael having finished her hologram tree, and Zora wants to make one of her own. And she puts it together with the crew of the Discovery in there. Oh,
that's 1 minute 46 seconds.
So, thinking of voids like that, I used to have. I've done some board game and role playing game journalism in my time, mainly with Who Dares Rolls. But before that, some friends and I had a blog, and it was called Hooting into the Abyss. I think it's still up with a few bits and pieces. But yeah, luckily, this abyss was one they were able to get out of.
Do you know which other abyss that people were able to get out of?
Why, what abyss?
The James Cameron film, The Abyss.
It's a good film.
It's
been
a good film.
Long time since I've seen it. And when I was a kid, I watched it having avidly just eaten up Aliens and Terminator 2, and then watched The Abyss and was like, it's not quite the same. Like,
no.
It took me a couple of watches to go, Abyss good. This Abyss, however, I'm sure we've seen some nothings before, and it's interesting seeing them try to make a big expanse of nothing interesting.
Yeah. Like, it was, I admit, going into this episode, I haven't actually seen season 4 of Discovery.
Oh, okay.
Seasons, like, I keep meaning to, but just life gets in the way, and I don't want to sound uncharitable, but sometimes watching Discovery feels a bit like something I'm doing for work purposes and not something I'm doing for enjoyment.
I like it, but it can feel like a chore. Definitely. Like I'm not. Again, this is giving truth to the name Casual Trek. I've not caught up on the current season of it, and yeah, I watched all of this season when I was getting in a Star Trek mood before we started Casual Trek. It's why I stopped that, and then when that was over, Strange New Worlds wasn't out, so I started watching The Orville of all things. Hmm. But yeah, this was the first episode that I saw of that kind of tranche. Like from this, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is good," and powered through, even with some bits that were a bit more lackluster and a lot of very quiet, very earnest talking about how we're all very Type A nerds and we feel all of this so intensely, and we've got to spreadsheet harder than anyone else because that's the Starfleet way. And
Are you feeling
you mean
called
just
out?
so much to me right now in this moment. Sorry,
Were
what?
you feeling called out because of your oh so obsessive love of spreadsheets?
Look, I love spreadsheets, but I'm not as serious about it as these nerds.
Were you telling the spreadsheets right now that you love them more than anything else?
I am looking at a spreadsheet right now.
Charlie, are you sleeping with your spreadsheets?
Look, I,
It's always the quiet ones.
oh dear. You had to bring this up here.
I did.
It's terrible. But yeah, I liked the dealing with the nothing, even though there was a lot of their trademark painful earnestness with a lot of it. The scenes with Gray and Zora were quite nice. Seeing Gray, despite him not really having a an official role on the ship, almost doing that counselor level of work, which I guess when he goes off to the Trill homeworld, that's part of his job.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was neat. Also seeing the bridge crew get like lines, and I still can't remember all of their names, but you got to see bits of them. So yeah, so that was nice.
So I definitely feel when I think this current season of Discovery finishes, I might just take a break from Doctor Who and then just work my way through Star Trek Discovery. It's either going to be that or new Battlestar Galactica,
Oh,
because that is a show that has been long overdue for a rewatch for me.
it's so good. Like there are some stumbling points, but as a whole, it is far more good than the bad parts are bad.
But just like I don't know, just like it was nice to see a complete episode.
Yes, definitely.
There's like a
Maybe
complete there's a
link to the
start.
other stuff, but it's a
Yeah,
complete unit of
it's
Star Trek.
it's a unit of Trek.
Yeah. Yeah.
For a moment, I thought the ensign who got killed was like a recurring named character. I'm like, okay, I wasn't sure. Just goes to show
Yeah.
about my being casual when it comes to Discovery.
I don't think it was. Like, I was surprised they got named. And yeah. But yeah, it was a good fun one. Like Zora being a sentient ship. Like we've gone through enough years of ships with sassy personalities, and that doesn't normally happen in Star Trek. But her kind of freaking out about she's got feelings and awareness and being stuck somewhere that's completely immune to sensors, that's completely without anything to sense, is making her freak out.
Yeah,
Was an interesting quandary because like would it have been a bit easier if that wasn't the case, or I don't know, in a way that kind of part of it of like being able to go, I'm overstimulated, I need to calm down and start actually, realizing what's fair.
it kind of made me think of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Mm.
Because the starship Heart of Gold has a genuine people personality of Eddie, the shipboard computer, which is this very chipper, high there, very kind of American, especially also when it started playing music
Hmm.
to Michael as they're flying out of the void, because something similar. There's a point in Hitchhikers when they're being pursued by two missiles, and Eddie starts singing to kind of calm everyone down in this tenseful situation. But there it's very much played for comedy. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, you just had a very intense look of you're about to type saying you can't hear me.
No, I was just having a ponder over thing.
Because it's always kind of it's weird to see stuff which has been played for parody being played straight in a show made 30, 40 years now. Like 22, and Hitchhikers came out late 70s. Oh dear God, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, also Zora being into Stormy Weather as a musical track was an interesting one, because we saw her in Calypso in the distant future from here, where she ends up also kind of like having funny face
Oh
as
yeah,
as a track.
I forgot about Calypso. I'm curious to see if the ending of Discovery is going to ever play into that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And yeah, with this, it's that kind of, oh yeah, now she's, because we didn't, that aired before they were in the future. So that aired
Yeah.
before Zora was an entity or a character in the show. And her love of kind of old musical films seems to be, brought up in this as well.
Easier to copyright.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Stormy Weather is owned by one of the many media conglomerates that also owns Paramount.
Probably these days.
Mm.
So yeah, but yeah, as a whole, it's, as you say, it's nice seeing a Discovery that is actually a complete thing.
Yeah, it still feels very much like the Michael Burnham show. Then I really like for a Star Trek show. I do like the ensemble cast of like the TNG era.
Yeah, well, I think like you had that benefit of going, you've got 20 odd episodes. This character can duck back, and this will be some other character's episode. And when you've got like 10 or so episodes, that's not going to be as much the case.
Yeah, I don't know. I always feel like the making it more of an ensemble for TNG when they brought back Star Trek was a way to kind of avoid
What, for
I
Shatner
think if
ego?
the ego clashes of TOS. And well, I don't think that's the case here. A lot of Discovery really does hinge on how much you like Michael Burnham as a character.
Yeah,
And she's fine. Like she's fine.
yeah, I feel, what is it, season 3? They get a bit better with her, where she's been in the future and she's learnt to chill a bit. And it's like, oh good, okay, this is a bit nicer now. And yeah, being a captain, being a bit more, I don't know, like less defensively confident about everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Always nice to see Grudge again.
Yes, yeah, we did get to see Grudge a few times, which was nice. Yeah, so look at our list. Our highest discovery is in spot number 22 with Forget Me Not, with the slug caves.
Oh yeah.
And while I feel this is a good one, like it's not. Let's see, it's not got the fun gimmick of magic to make Viserys Man go mad.
No.
In spot 40, but it is, as you say, it's a good single unit of a Star Trek. You know, it's the notable flaws that we do tend to get stuck on a bit with Discovery are a lot less in this. So
And
I feel
I don't think it's as good as spot number 43, which is the first 2 episodes of Discovery, Vulcan Hello and Battle at the Binary Stars. Like, I feel that while it's better in some ways, it doesn't have that because that two-parter has a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's got it has Michelle Yeoh. They're really trying to strongly establish we're bringing back Star Trek for this new generation of TV, for the prestige era of TV. So it needs to look. I feel it's the Doctor Who trap of we have to look big, expensive, and flashy. At all points, we have to have very kind of flashy camera work when we do the space travel to make it look like, oh wow, we are in space.
Well, it felt like the grey of Enterprise mixed with the Dutch angles and lens flare of the '09 film.
Yeah.
That pilot. Okay. All right, let's see. Below that, we've got The Wounded, Errand of Mercy. I don't know, like I'm looking at some of these, like Field of Fire, as much as I was making fun of Jorah and Dax being all kind of hamming it up like a bad low rent Hannibal in 46. There, I think it's probably still a bit more fun.
Charles, like in the 40s or 50s, we have a really good batch of episodes. We've got 48. We've got Where Fountains Lie, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, which has Jeffrey Combs. We have Carbon Creek. We've got Juttrell at 62.
Let's see. Actually, like, yeah, seeing above Juttrell at 61, we've got another discovery with Through the Valley of Shadows, with Pike's kind of future vision stuff as well, which we like Pike, especially from Strange New Worlds. I don't know if that's necessarily as good.
Like it's good. It's one of those ones where like the one scene is what pretty much puts the episode on the list, and is the one scene of Pike seeing the future that he'll be locked into, but still taking the crystal anyway, despite the fact that he knows if he does this, that he is pretty much damned.
Okay, well, under Juttrell, we've got Riker's work experience with A Matter of Honor, which, you know, it's got some not sentient, it's got some weird bacteria stuff, and, you know, Mendon being a real tool, which, you know, was, again, good fun and a nice solid single unit. I wonder if this might be slightly better with the curiosity of the big nothing.
I am looking at Captive Pursuit, the episode under it at 64, which is where O'Brien befriends a lizard which has been bred purely for hunting. And we get to see the only time ever in the show where Odo decides to mosey his way to stop a crime.
Yeah, well done, Odo.
Like I feel, all right. Then we have, okay. I think this is going to be the lowest I put it on. I go for the list because otherwise we're going to be here all day.
Oh yeah.
At number 67, we have the Man Trap, where a salt vampire is pretending to be Bones' ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's both as stupid as you want it to be and somehow not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, you're saying above, below Man Trap?
I'm saying below. Because, you know, you're always going to get a good time with a salt vampire.
Okay, but yeah, I think it's definitely better than Second Contact, which is spot 68, which, you know, is a solid enough pilot for Lower Decks, but not anywhere near as good as the rest of Lower Decks.
Yeah. I think like the thing I'm really starting to realize is the problem isn't the really good episodes, and like, you know, it isn't placing the top 20 episodes in the bottom 20 episodes. It's everything else in between. It's easy to rank best of both worlds. It's going to be really hard to just rank an episode where the Enterprise goes to a planet and indulges in shit kicking.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah. So that puts it at spot number 68 for Stormy Weather. So finally, we have a bit I know I'm sure you've been looking forward to, Mars. We have our third episode for night. which is Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 7, titled A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. It aired on the 6th of October 2022, written by Anne Kim, directed by Jason Zurek. The UK number one hit was Sam Smith and Kim Petras with Unholy, and the US had Harry Styles with As It Was. The latter we've covered a bit, was on both of the countries' number ones for a while.
I think we've done both of them at some point. I'm sure we've done Unholy, because the album art looked very familiar. But I could be wrong.
Let's see. No, we did. Yeah, with a Prodigy episode.
It's not Ed Sheeran singing about Christmas, so
Yeah.
like, man, remember when Harry Styles was like the big thing?
Mm.
Or it might just be like an American thing, like all like Harry. Everyone went kind of. Harry Styles was a member of One Direction, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I do pay attention to popular culture, because I was about to say I remember Harry Styles being as big as One Direction and realizing he was a member of One Direction. You giant smeghead.
So, yeah, I mostly remember from Todd in the Shadows. Like, I assume they were big. It's not like I've got my finger on the pulse, you know. I've mostly been listening to Finger Thing and Brand Van 3000 at the moment. So, yeah. Oh, and a bit of Tom Waits, inspired by my friend Sam's Meatloaf podcast, Chat Out of Hell, who covered Martha by Tom Waits, which is a fucking great song.
Do you know what?
Meatloaf's version's not great.
Do you know what I ran into on Saturday? I ran into that rare breeder thing you don't very much see out in the wild. I ran into a fan of the mountain goats.
Oh, how's their podcast? Sorry, how's his podcast?
I don't think it's been on for a while. I think they just did like 2 seasons.
No, I mean the fan.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't ask.
Yeah, I assume this is another white-bearded, middle-aged man with a podcast.
I didn't ask, but he had a Mountain Goats t-shirt, and we discussed our favorite albums, you know. But it was at work, so there we go. We're never gonna get a Mountain Goats song on the talk about in the podcast.
No.
Okay, I'm coming up with a rule. If we have an episodes where one of the number ones is a song that we've done before, I think we should get like a wild card to talk about a song we've really listened to in the past week.
Wow. Right. Is this just because we keep getting the same ones from 1996 at the moment?
Look, I don't want to do the Babylon Zoo joke for a 5th time.
No. Okay.
And also, for so many of the songs, we just kind of like, with these recent songs, we just kind of like, yeah, it's fine, but we're old, so it's not really it's not going to hit us the same way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure Harry Styles is fine. He's not my genre of music. He's never been my genre of music. And to pretend that I can enjoy him as a genre of music I would enjoy would be churlish at worst and libelous at best.
Wow. Okay. What won't be libelous, but will probably be churlish, is your recap.
How long do I have to talk about this? Because it's... Do we do 3 minutes?
I want to say 3 minutes. I think it's 3 minutes.
Okay.
So, Miles, I know you're a fan of this episode and of the lead character. Try to control yourself as we descend into the Owl Planet now.
Peanut Hamper is an exocomp, which is a sentient, floating computer thingy. Peanut Hamper is the worst. Fuck Peanut Hamper. I rest my case. Peanut Hamper, at the end of season 1 of Lower Decks, abandoned the crew to their deaths. And she ended up trapped on a planet of owl people. At first, seeming like she has no interest in the owl people and find them all disgusting, she slowly starts to help their society. She even takes one as a lover. How that works, I do not know. Turns out the owl people used to be space travelers, so she hasn't broken the Prime Directive. Oh dear. What a crime. Then scavengers turn up on her wedding day and start demanding these ships and attacking the Owl Planet. She's been not wanting to contact Starfleet because she went AWOL and thus they'll probably put her in prison. But instead, she realizes that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And so she contacts the Cerritos. Everybody does their bit to save the day. It looks like Peanut Hamper learned something. No. In fact, she was the one who told the scavengers about the ships in the first place so they would come and attack the planet so she could look noble contacting the Cerritos, and she was just faking it with the owl guy. Because computers can fake orgasms, I guess. And no, this is all just a long con to get back into Starfleet's good graces to avoid a lengthy jail sentence. It turns out she learnt nothing. She is still the same selfish, opinionated, annoyingly voiced little shit that she wasn't in her last episode. Fuck Peanut Hamper. No notes. Oh, and Jeffrey Combs is in this for like 30 seconds.
Woo!
And that's the best 30 seconds of the episode. Fuck Peanut Hamper. No notes. I'm done.
Wow, that is 42 seconds under.
I was very tempted to say fuck Peanut Hamper and just have that be my entire synopsis.
Do you like peanut butter, Mars?
I'm British. No, I don't.
I fucking love peanut butter.
Okay. All right. I like Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
Chocolate, peanut butter. Great.
Lovely.
I don't know, I've tried so many times to like peanut butter, but it just never works for me.
Peanut butter is one of those things that I really loved as a small child, and then I just stopped. I guess we just didn't have it for ages. And then when I was much older, I was like, oh, fucking hell, peanut butter, that's quite nice, isn't it? And yeah, it is very nice. Very good. But yeah, Peanut Hamper's a weird fucking name.
Peanut Hamper sounds like, the name of a YouTuber where you think it's gonna be really, really cutesy videos, but then like in the middle of one episode, they're basically just of one video when they're talking about, I don't know, soft drinks, they're just gonna turn to the camera and say, I really don't like non-white people.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The name of a YouTuber who has at least one apology video out there.
Yeah, like the one YouTuber who definitely thinks it's still cool to be edgy about politics in the year of our COVID 2024.
So, watching this episode, I was like, this is a bit of a different one. Like, it's even got different opening credits. But, Miles, have you seen much Rick and Morty?
I have a question. Before I was going to get to Rick and Morty. I have a question for you.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever had to change who you are as a person due to a circumstance, a realization that you're kind of a dick, and you've actually had to, change and work at yourself, and that realizing that that's difficult, and you keep slipping back into bad habits?
There have definitely been moments growing up.
There is always this weird thing I've always noticed that, when you hang out with people who you've not spent time with for like a long time, you will just kind of go back to being that person.
There is always that fear.
And that's always kind of weird because I'm not who I was at 16, thank God. I'm not who I was at 26, thank God. And
yeah,
36, I'll be fine.
I don't think I realized when I was younger how long that would last. Of like, when you're in your 20s and go, God, I was a fucking idiot as a teenager. And then realizing in your 30s, like, oh yeah, early 20s, Charlie also didn't have it going on.
Yeah.
Really, either.
Like, oh God, I've had this coworker I have at work right now who was like, I think nearly twice my age. But they talk about and complain about the job and everyone around them in a way that I did at the Hilton when I was in my 20s. And I'm like, oh dear God, I have grown so much. Because I used to be that person at a much younger age, and it pisses it now when I hear them do it, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you should be better than this. You don't have to like your job.
So
But at the same time, just acting like you're better in it while you're clocked in is where the problem lies.
it's a curious thing. Like I find getting older now. Now I'm in my early-ish 40s. Um, you find some personality traits crystallize, not just with
Yeah,
yourself but with others, and you go, okay, there are some friends where they've just locked that in, like that isn't moving, and sometimes that's not great, and seeing people that you go like, okay, yeah, like you are not going to learn or grow or evolve. um
one of my oldest friends
mm,
was very much like that. Like they seemed to be locked into the person they were in like their teens and their 20s. And I I there had to be a point where I just kind of like I have to kind of cut this person off because it's just uncomfortable to just look at someone who isn't growing and they seem to be okay with just being almost entropic in how they live.
mm.
And that hurts. Well, for a super fun, happy Star Trek show. And so, yeah, tell me about Rick and Morty.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask, have you seen much Rick and Morty?
I've seen the first season and a few bits here and there. I admit I kind of dropped off, partially because I wasn't finding it entertaining, and partially I find, as a Doctor Who fan, when I say I find Rick and Morty fans insufferable,
Mm-hmm.
I mean it. I am not saying it lightly.
Oh my god, yeah, the fandom is incredibly embarrassing. So I watched, I think, the first 2 or 3 seasons, and as a whole, I enjoyed them. I was a big Community fan, so getting a bunch of that kind of tone of voice of it, it was, even if it was sometimes quite painfully cynical, it was entertaining. And then, yeah, the more the fans were the fans, the more embarrassing it was as something to watch.
Like
And I
I
dipped in
think
and out, but I more dipped out than in. And this feels very much like a Rick and Morty episode.
I feel I think I don't know. I just feel like cynicism. I think this just exposes how old we are. I feel like cynicism is something that's fine to do in like your teens and early 20s.
Hmm.
And I think there comes a point where like cynicism as a defense mechanism or cynicism as a way of avoiding, having to actually have a serious opinion about something or actually just trying to actually take anything seriously.
Hmm.
I feel stops being great when you kind of hit 30.
It's a tricky one with that. Like I remember at one point watching too much Charlie Brooker and watching too much Zero Punctuation. And as far as like review type things, I was like, this is so very cynical. I feel almost ill. I feel nauseous from this. My brother, he showed me some videos by Consolvania. Like some of their old reviews were put up onto YouTube, like Cabela's Deer Hunter and Oblivion, where if they don't have anything really positive to say about a game, they will have some fun with it. Like with
Hmm.
Oblivion, like, oh yeah, all these interesting things this world. Do you know what I like doing? Just nicking people's shoes and then throwing them up on a roof and stuff like that. And it was it was that thing of, oh, there can still be delightful reviews, and I'm not like, oh yes, everything must be incredibly earnest and
I admit I find toxic positivity just as annoying,
yeah.
but at the same time, like, I feel if you have nothing really nice to say, sometimes it is better to say nothing at all. Or if you have nothing really kind of worth saying about something.
Well, like, what is the reason behind it? What is the purpose of this? Ultimately, with a kind of cynical take on a thing. sometimes that is fine and valid, and there is a reason for it. But I'd rather showing the working rather than just defensively.
I need to make a confession.
Okay.
I fell back onto Twitter when the new season of Doctor Who started. But I am trying to be clean. I cleared out my Safari history on my phone, and now I can't log back onto Twitter, which might be for the best. And it just reminded me of just how I feel I hit that point when so many people were just bitching about the Star Wars sequels. And it got to the point where I felt like you couldn't mention Star Wars without just someone bringing up how much they hated The Last Jedi or whatever. I'm just like, this seems to be your life?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you just seem to exist that when anyone says anything about The Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker or Force Awakens, you have to come and let me know how much you hate and how much that The Last Jedi is the worst film you've ever seen. And you know what? If The Last Jedi is the worst film you've ever seen, watch more fucking movies.
Yeah. Yeah. God, I bumped into an old customer of mine at the comic shop on delivery day a little while ago, and I picked up my order, as any good comic shop customer should pick up their goddamn standing order, because that all costs money.
Yep.
But yeah, this guy came in and saw a Star Wars anthology comic, like Star Wars Voices kind of thing, and had launched into one about there being a woman on the cover, and all of this kind of like anti-woke stuff. It's like, yeah, well, of course, it's all going to be rubbish. Look, they've got, a woman Jedi there. It's like, oh, fucking hell. Oh, that's depressing. Seeing these kind of former edgelord customer who wasn't terrible, but wasn't that years ago, and
It was the internet was like sometimes like it's weird to say like the internet was a different place in the early 2000s, and I feel it was something that like web culture had to kind of go through to grow up. It's like, yeah, man, it's like it's a good thing social media didn't exist back then, because like there's a ton of shit I definitely said back in the early 2000s which would quite rightfully get me into a lot of trouble, but you kind of grow up.
yeah,
And I admit, like, when I first heard that we were going to get a adult animated Star Trek show from one of the people who worked on Rick and Morty,
yeah,
I was really worried.
same,
I have never been so happy to be so wrong. But this episode was everything I was afraid that Star Trek Lower Decks would be.
like it is cynical and it's doing its own odd thing, but I mean, at least it's not running roughshod with, going, oh yeah, we're just gonna, teabag whatever from every part of Star Trek history and just be references. Like, it feels like a Rick and Morty episode because you could just replace Peanut Hamper with Rick Sanchez. Like, go, oh yeah, okay, so he's going to join this community of weird primitive bird people, introduces medicine to them, discovers their technology and betrayed them to get off world because fuck them and
Yeah.
everything else, and that's about it. The good thing is, at least we have Agamos at the end. Like, the thing is, the scheme is not necessarily a bad one. Like, it's a terrible, terrible behavior from a terrible character, and that is different from it being just out and out bad. Like, oh yeah, it's because she is just the worst. But is this interesting or fun to watch? And yeah, I'd forgotten because I put it on the slate because I knew it was. I remembered it was her manipulation of these people. I forgot they were owl people. And I may need to just go on a thing briefly about owls because we've been on tangential enough with talking about this episode, so I figure why not. So
It'll probably be a much healthier use of our time than talking about this episode.
okay, so I have a problem with owls. I forget whether that was something that was massively known or anything like that by you, but back when you were in Brighton, but yeah, for some time I've had issues with owls.
Did an owl sell you some bad cat down at the level?
No, no. So when I was a student, I was living at home because I was studying at home and money is needed for survival. So I was living at the house where I'd have to pay some bills and walk the dog and, pay a little bit of rent, that sort of thing. So I was also starting to drink. I started drinking a bit later just because, oh, that's the stuff my dad does, my brother does, anything like that. So I wasn't going to bother with it.
Hmm.
But once my brother went away to university, the only source of peer pressure I had to drink had gone. So I did. So I started drinking, and I found I got very responsible when I drank. Of like, must tidy up, must look after the dog, must. There were a lot of taking a slightly disorientated dog on a walk fairly late at night, and I'd let him out in the garden, and I thought an owl was watching me from one of the rooftops. And I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck's an owl doing watching me? And I'd go home, I'd go back upstairs, I'd go to bed, and I'd forget about it. And this happened again and again and again until there was a point where my brother came down and crashed, and there's a fire pit in the garden. So we were poking around in the embers of that one morning, and he just looked at me and went, what the fuck was all that about an owl? I was like, what? Suddenly, bang, memory unlocked of all of those times of thinking an owl was stalking me. And I decided on that day that me and owls were through. Like, we're done. Those swivel-headed cunts can get it. Fuck them.
I think you just described like your own Stephen Moffat episode of Doctor Who, where it turns out like the owl is actually you from the future, but displaced through wibbly wobbly timey wimey shenanigans.
So the owl wasn't a real owl. I know, shocking no one. But when my brother
I
said,
thought you were weird.
What was up with that fucking owl? My eyes immediately shot to the rooftop where I thought it was. And there was a statue of an owl as like a pigeon scarer type thing. And it's like, there!
Did your head swivel around fully like an owl?
I'm not that bad, Miles. Yeah, what's worse is now, like, now I'm living in the ancestral estate, in the family home. Whoever was there, that owl is gone. And that's terrible because I could have told people the anecdote down in the garden and pointed and went, and it was him. But no. Sadly, my friends knew about my fear and hatred of all owls. So I have been gifted multiple owls over the years. My largest one, Stephen J. Marlam the owl, was given to me for my 33rd birthday. And Emma, my beloved, made me an owl cover. So that even though it is a heartfelt gift by one of my oldest best friends, it is still a fucking owl. So it needs to get in a bag and face the other way.
Okay, I feel like
No posting me an owl, Miles.
not even an owl onesie, like an owl snuggie.
Oh no.
So you can dress as an owl.
The only good owl is Blathers from Animal Crossing. Every other owl can get fucked. Anyway, so yeah, I forgot there were owl people here. I was like, oh, this has got me in a bad spot already.
I don't think I've ever hated rewatching an episode for this show. I think The Child Death Planet is up there, but I don't think there's ever been an episode I have disliked the idea of having to rewatch for this show.
So,
Like, I'm sure when we finally get to Spock's brain, I will be dancing to Spock's brain, because, you know, a fun time will be had by all. And for what I remember, there are some very sexy outfits. But and then second time round, when you know the clever twist, because you know that I really don't want to imagine that some writer just was kind of patting themselves in the back going, aha, but what if Peanut Hamper was a shit the entire time? I'm like, well, that's clever.
The obvious conclusion.
Yeah, it's not like we've done this in Rick and Morty. It's not like we've had like 5 episodes of South Park back when South Park was good, when the twist was, wow, Cartman is the fucking worst. It's not where we've had a dozen episodes of The Big Bang Theory where we think, oh, Sheldon is nice. No, Sheldon's still the fucking worst. Ross is still the worst friend.
Peanut Hamper is the worst lower decker.
Pretty much.
Okay, so
I don't like all the stuff I could have enjoyed about the episode. Even down to, I admit, the exocomp owl person fuck scene. When you know what's coming, it becomes worse because you're just like, yeah, no, why am I watching this terrible person be terrible? You know, we've mentioned Red Dwarf several times.
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Judas Rimmer is the worst.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Arnold Judas Rimmer is also an incredibly sympathetic character because he knows he's the worst.
He's a man in a hell of his own making, because he is so terrible. And
he's so terrible, but he's also aware that he is a gigantic smeghead.
Yeah,
but he's stuck in the trap that actually, like, Crichton puts it best when Rimmer gets put on trial for killing the crew of the Red Dwarf. He is Arnold Judas Rimmer. That is his crime, but that is also his punishment. But at the same time, so many times throughout the show, you see little glimpses of the kind of person Rimmer could have been or could still become. Even to the point of we see an alternate version of Rimmer where he is the coolest fucker alive in Ace Rimmer, and Rimmer just instinctively hates him because he's everything he could have been. But Rimmer will forever be making will forever refuse to change, because to change will be to admit that he is the problem, and that it's not Rimmer's family, it's not Rimmer's upbringing, it's not Rimmer's failings to become what he wants. It's because Rimmer won't accept that he is his own problem, that he won't change. And I don't know how you could... I'm not saying you have to have Peanut Butter have a heel about turn straight away and be trying to be a good person and like immediately be a good person. Like, maybe it's a case of they were actually trying, but because of their past actions, the crew of the Cerritos don't believe them and put them in robot jail anyway. And so Peanut Hamper doubles down on all their worst habits and tendencies.
Yeah. Oh dear. So, looking at our list, I think from what we've discussed, I had more fun with this than you, because that's not difficult. But it wasn't good.
No.
There were some moments where it was fine. There were the occasional chuckles.
I admit, Alperson exocomp fuck scene. I'm still like, okay, you know what? You get that one.
Yeah.
You have the bit where she makes like her friend Sophie out of a rock, like Tom Hanks in Castaway, and then immediately just ditches Sophie.
Betrays her right
away.
Like
that was funny. I'm not gonna say it is lift us where suffering cannot reach.
No,
Because I feel
no.
what is wrong with that episode is far more because, like, okay, this is a 25-minute adult animated science fiction cartoon,
Yeah.
and this just feels like it falls in. And like, I feel Lower Decks avoids the trap of most adult animated cartoons by having a sense of fun and also having a fairly solid emotional core. That there is
Yeah.
a kind of earnestness which is kind of played up, but the characters don't feel like jerks.
Yeah. And it's an easy trap for these kind of shows to fall into. It's something where I don't know. My big fear was less that this would be a Rick and Morty, more that it would be a Seth MacFarlane joint.
Mm,
And yeah, I guess at this point, this is it at that biggest excess, that biggest kind
yeah.
of lapse.
Like
Um,
even like the worst tendencies of the characters to be jerks is Mariner, but at the same time I feel like Mariner is wrapped up in what I would say is the Rimmer problem, where Mariner's biggest enemy is Mariner herself,
yeah,
and there's her slow realization of it throughout the show. There are times when she slides back into her bad behavior, but there's always it's always a case of one step forward, two steps back, but there is still always the one step forward.
yeah.
Whereas I feel with Peanut Hamper, it is actually just two steps back with no one step forward, and just doubling down on being the absolute goddamn worst.
Yeah. So on that note, I'm looking near the bottom. I figured it's time to scroll down for the first time in a little while, actually. And yeah, we've got more trouble, more tribbles, which has some glorious triple body horror. That's in position 98. In 100 at the moment, we have Despite Yourself from Discovery with Captain Killy, which doesn't do enough, but is still entertaining.
I think that might be the shortest amount of time to recap an episode.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. Um, yeah, Beyond the Farthest Star for animated series went 2 minutes under, but I think we were giving it the full 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, there's the space pollen making trip even more racist than he already was. Oh, and the clown, the evil clown in number 133, Voyager's evil clown in the Matrix.
Then we have the host where Riker gets a slug in him, and Crusher gets her end away, and then it gets vaguely homophobic.
Yeah, okay. So that feels like a good spot to have a look at for this. So
After that, 105, we have the menagerie.
yeah.
Like, why did we just put this down so low because of the very 1960s ableism?
Also, the way the conclusion felt almost like a reversal of what some of the Cage's stuff was of like, yeah, you're disabled, so live in this prison where weird psychic aliens are probably there to try and breed a servant race out of you.
They're going to milk you.
They're gonna watch you fuck, definitely. Those little freaks.
I'm surprised. Have we had that in Lower Decks? We haven't had an episode of Lower Decks where aliens want to watch the characters bang. Again, a much more Rick and Morty show would probably have done that.
I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll end up in the Telosian cage by the end of it. So yeah, like Menagerie was not good. I think I don't know, like the romance stuff with the host was interesting, like complicated in an interesting way before, yeah, it has some problems.
Yeah.
Let's see, I think I prefer the evil clown.
Yeah.
You know, and the local circus troupe.
Then we have at 106 we have Enterprise with Dead Stop, which I feel like we ranked so low because for an episode we thought was going to be horror, utterly fails at being horror.
I mean, it failed at being much, like, which was a
Yeah.
real shame because it, on paper, the premise sounded good. But yeah, it's one that reminded me I need to rewatch The Cube at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What about Cube? What about Cube 2 Hypercube?
Oh god, yeah. That's still fun, just not good, but fun.
Yeah. Like you can have something be not good but still be fun.
Okay, under Dead Stop, there's the pilot for Picard, which is partially good but not fun. It's the problems of them trying to make a prestige show and going, the Federation is all cynical and dark now, and
Yeah,
Picard's done
Picard's
some
gonna have a grumpy
things.
speech.
Yeah, and it's going to be JL, the rogue, what don't take orders from anyone, and never played by the rules and all that, which I feel almost is the level of like looking at this and going, this isn't what I wanted from a Star Trek.
I think I will definitely acquiesce on that one.
So that puts this at 107 out of 111.
111.
So yeah, there's a ringing endorsement.
And at 111, our worst units of Star Trek is Strange New Worlds lift us where suffering cannot reach. Where we feel like we have to establish once again there's a child death machine which creates utopia.
And they're not going to do anything about that.
I'm just thinking of like I think every time we go back to lift us where suffering cannot reach, I just think of that one fantastic quote in Beyond the Spider-Verse from Hobie Brown, the punk Spider-Man. It's a metaphor for capitalism.
Oh, well, and on that note, if you want to engage in the act of capitalism, you can always support us on Ko-fi, where we need money. Like, sadly, we are not in the post-scarcity Star Trek utopia. So bung us some money and give us a theme or a character or even a specific episode, and we will build a show all around it. But next week we do not have that. Instead, Miles, what have you decided that we're covering for the next one?
Okay, I want you to put on your best penny loafers and HP Lovecraft cosplay because we're going to delve
Miles, I'm not gonna be racist. I'm not gonna talk about, a Highland's jaw and how it's not quite right or anything.
Can you at least read something in the Dutch language?
Not well.
All right. Okay, fine. We're going to be doing cosmic horror.
Ooh.
I know it's not Halloween, but
Oh, I've got ideas for Halloween. That's
dear.
fine.
Oh no.
It's right. It'll be a nice candlelit horror.
Just going to sit around and read some M.R. James.
Anyway, yes. So it's going to be some nice spooky cosmic horror because it turns out space in Star Trek is fucking terrifying. But yeah, until then, Miles, where can the good folks find you?
Well, they can find me on Miles Reed Lobato on Blue Sky .social.bluesky. You can find me on my blog at www.mareedlobato.wordpress.com. You can find us on the Casual Trek Blue Sky, which is casualtrek.bsky.social. Yeah, and then Charlie, where can the good folks find you?
So I am also on Blue Sky. I'm skyshark.bsky.social. I'm, for my sins, still on Facebook, where I talk about X-Men literally every day. And also on Fake Tales, where I've started talking about 2000 AD, which I'm just through starting the third year of, I think, or thereabouts. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, there might even be some videos online on Who Dares Rolls about the UK Games Expo. I may be in them. I was in the preview one with a little guest star slot, but we're past the UK Games Expo now. So have a look at it and see what I was anticipating and hopefully have not been disappointed by. So yeah, that's it from us. And go do a Starfleet. Don't program any weird killer missiles. Don't let an exocomp call itself Peanut Hamper. That's a stupid name.
Don't use AI art and have a jelly baby.
Yeah. You have been listening to Casual Trek, a Nerd and Tie podcast, presented by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Labato. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Edited by the hosts and by Rihanna Reed Labato. Star Trek is owned by Paramount. Not us. Not yet.